Here are my top 3 ACT strategies. Tip number 1, learn to spot distractors. So the ACT puts distracting answer choices on some of its problems. So the distractors are designed to lure you away from the correct answer. So the ACT has a national average of approximately 21. And each of the 4 sections, and that would be English, math, reading, and science, all vary between 20 and 21 for an average of 21. To get a score of 21 on the test, you need to answer roughly 50 to 60% of the questions correct. So if they make a test that's too hard, right? Those would be subjects that you haven't covered. There's no calculus on the test. There's really no grammar and reading and advanced physics on the test that's way so hard that it'd be difficult for a college student. This is a college entrance exam, so something you should be able to do for a college student. But they can't make it impossible, so they often make it tricky. And one of the ways that they make your test questions tricky is by throwing in these distracting answer choices. And these are these shiny objects that just say, pick me, pick me. So they're luring you away. And the way that they can always guarantee that they're getting this national average score of approximately a 21 is that on easy questions, there is no shiny object other than the answer choice. And so on an easy or simple question, right? And these are very simple and straightforward. The answer is going to be obvious. On a hard or more complex type of question, the type of question you kind of scratch your head and you go, what? On those hard questions, your first thing to do is look for an obvious answer choice and then cross it off. And the reason why is that if a hard question, something that was really complex, those last couple of math questions, the reading questions that kind of twist you back and forth and you don't know what it is that you just read, and then all of a sudden there was this obvious answer choice that just seemed to be so correct. Are you that smart? Well, if I didn't tell you that they had loaded this test with a bunch of distracting answer choices, you would pick it. So now you have to start to think, okay, what am I looking at? So is this an easy, straightforward kind of computational question that I can get right in math, or in one of the verbal sections, that'd be the grammar, the reading, or the science? A lot of reading in the science, so we're going to call that verbal. Is it straightforward? I'm just looking for something, right? Some piece of information I can pluck out and get it. Then that's going to be probably easier and more simplistic. But as you read the problem and you recognize, you go, this is some really advanced stuff and I'm so confused, chances are the obvious answer choice can't be right. So be very leery of this and aware that, hey, if I am so confused, but I look at the answer choice and the answer pops to me, chances are that's a distractor. That's used to lure you away from the test and in their hopes of you getting a 20 or a 21. Now, some of you are thinking, Mike, I got like an 18, a 20 or a 21 would be awesome. Good. Then let's always be looking for obvious answer choices and you'll do that. But if you have a score of 21 or above, we have to recognize easy is going to have an obvious answer choice. Our hard questions never going to have an obvious answer choice. All right, so I just told you what a distractor is. Now let's figure out how to identify them on the different sections. In math, the most common type of distractor is where you've answered part of the problem. So you're going to get some more of those complex algebraic equations where there's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 steps, right? And you've got 60 questions on math and you've got only 60 minutes to do it. So you have to work quickly. So you've spent, maybe a minute plus on doing the 3 steps. And now all of a sudden you start to doubt yourself and you go, gosh, am I on the right thing? And you take a peek down at the answer choices. And all of a sudden you see what you've got is step 3 in the answer choice. And you go, oh, maybe I've done it. Maybe I've got it all right. Or maybe it's step 4, right? And they're trying to lure you away so that you don't complete all of the steps. So again, a possible distractor would be answering just part of the problem, and they know because they've taken a look at the way that you answer questions, they're going to see, hey, 3 and 4 steps in, this kid's got -2. I throw -2 as an answer choice, and I'm going to distract certain people away, lure them away from the correct answer, and in effect, it's going to hurt your score. The other type of question or answer choice that you're going to see is you're working through these steps, and maybe you're all the way down to step number 4, and you have -x = 2. And time is rushing and, rushing by, and you just got to go quickly. And all of a sudden you see answer choice and you go, okay, great, I'll pick that. Well, we all know if we weren't rushing and you weren't tired, that it would be x = -2, right? So that's another way that they do that, is that they're just hoping to just catch, however many thousands of kids would just make that mistake. It helps them bring that national average down to 21. Otherwise, you would have got this and screwed up their average. And then finally, this is this thing about this obvious answer choice. You're reading some really super complex math, and it's this hard word problem, and it's so confusing, and you go, I don't know what's going on, and you spent like 20 or 30 seconds reading the question. You have no clue. Then all of a sudden you look and you see an answer choice, and you go, yes, it must be 2. Well, you got to ask yourself, is that too easy for a hard problem, right? Those last 10, so on the ACT, there's no true order of difficulty. But if we take a look at 1 through 60, and you were kind of draw a magical line here, that's going to be the easy half, and that's going to be the hard half. And those questions are going to progressively get more challenging. It's not a perfect order, but that's kind of the way that goes. Another way to look at it is simple is going to be easy, and hard is going to be more complex. So on these really more difficult or more complex questions at the bottom, were you able just to see the answer so quickly and because you're so brilliant? Maybe you are. But if you are that brilliant, chances are you're not watching this video for tips. You already have a perfect score. So for the rest of us, we have to rely on these techniques to help get us away from distracting answer choices and really be able to pick what we got as the correct answer and get points for it. While the math has some pretty clear, distracting answer choices that are, I think, pretty easy to spot, the verbal test has some too. You just might have to look a little bit harder to find them. So one of the first ones that you're going to see is this answer choice sounds right, but does not answer the question. And one of the things that is against you here, in the grammar section, you've got 75 questions in 45 minutes. And then in the reading, you've got 40 questions in 35 minutes, and science, the same deal, 40 questions in 35 minutes. You've got to go fast, and you only get points for answering questions, not for reading. So what happens is we tend to read very quickly, and then we look at the answer choices, then we go back and skim the passage, and we find something. You go, yeah, that sounds right. Well, be very careful. Just because it sounds right, you have to really prove that something is correct. Now, a strategy I'm going to give you in a moment is that it's not actually proving that's correct, but it's easier to find something that's not correct. So another type of distractor on the verbal section is it answers why, but you needed what, or it answers what, but needed why, or any of those other combinations that we can come up with. Really common issues for that. So be very careful with that. And then another type of distractor is this thing called words out of context. So you read this passage, and then you look at the questions, and in the question you go, oh my gosh, yeah, in line 50, there I see those words. And it's those words that are taken from the passage and put right into the answer choice, and you go, that's got to be it. Well, just because the words match doesn't mean that that's the correct answer. And that's what words taken out of context means. So here's a good example. Let's suppose that we're taking a look at answer choice G here, and we have having a limited repertoire, right? So we have this limited repertoire. Well, does that mean that because I see those in the passage that that's the correct answer? No, chances are that they just grab specific words to try and lure you away. So Be very, very careful of that. Tip number 2 is to pace yourself. So again, on each one of these sections, you're expected to work very quickly. It's one of the frustrations with the ACT, that you have to process information so fast. But do you? Right? So if we were to take a look at the answer, the raw score conversion to scales. So you've already gone through and corrected your test, and then you're taking a look at each one of the different sections, right? English, math, reading, and science. And you're trying to figure out, okay, how many questions did I get right and what would my score be? So the easiest thing to do is recognize that this is the scale. And then this is going to be the score chart for the English section. And then this is going to be for math. Now, just so that we could see something and make sense, I had to just take a section from it. Most kids on this test score between an 18 and a 27, so that's just why I did this grouping. So again, we're going to talk about the national average, somewhere around 20 to 21. Okay, on English, I need to get 40, 42 to 47 correct. And on the English section, there are 75 questions. So I need to get roughly a little more than half, 50 to 60%, just to get the national average. So if you're racing through the entire test to try and get through all of them, chances are you're going to make a lot of careless errors and going to fall for distractors. It'd be so much better for you to say, hey, I got a 21 on the last test. My target score is a 24. How do you figure out your target score? Take a practice test. No time limit. Go through and do your very best possible, right? So this is really a test of your knowledge. How well do you do? And so on a time test, maybe you get a 21, but on an untimed test, you get a 24. Okay, so 24 becomes your goal. You just now need to figure out how to pace this out. So if I am aiming for a 24, look, I need to get 53 to 55 out of 75. So it means that we cannot worry about 20 problems. And we're not going to leave them blank. You always bubble them in because there's no penalty for error on the ACT. But what you're going to do is that you're going to pace yourself more appropriately so that you're going to spend the time necessary to get a problem right. So what's the sense in spending 45 seconds on a question to miss it? It would be so much better to spend a minute on a question, use that extra 15 seconds to really confirm that you got it right or wrong, right? Whatever you're doing. And then we just know that we're going to not get to a bunch and we're going to fill in those at the very end. For math here, if I want to get the national average, right, I need to get roughly 28 to 30, and there are 60 questions on the math. So I'm getting 28 to 30. I'm getting roughly 50% right. Yet kids are rushing through to get to those last 10. Those last 10 are hard. I've been teaching this test for over 30 years. They still make me scratch my head, right? What is this? So if you're in this middle range, let's not worry about get to the end. Let's worry about getting as many problems correct in the time period we have. So same sort of deal. On a time test, you get 21, but your goal's at 34, or that's what you untimed, right? You recognize, hey, maybe I should aim for 40 or 45 total out of 60, and that's going to give you plenty to miss, but it's going to give you an opportunity to get your exact score that you're looking for. Okay, to complete the rest of the test, I have the scale on this side now. And again, most of the kids score between 18 and 27, with right around 20 to 21 being that national average. So on the reading test, there are 40 questions. Science, there are 40 questions. So if I want to get about the national average, I need to answer 21 to 23 out of 40. So what sometimes kids will do, because there's 4 passages, there's 2 humanities and 2 social science, sometimes, let's just say hypothetically, that the kids are no good at passage number 1. And passage number 1 is the prose fiction. So let's suppose you're no good at prose fiction, but you're great at the other ones, but you always run out of time. Right? You know what you're going to do? You're going to not do passage 1 first. You're going to go and do passage 2, then 3, then 4, then do number 1. Right? Because this is one you're only getting like 4 out of 10 right, 3 out of 10 right. Well, let's spend all of our time here where you really do well. Or maybe your best section, or excuse me, your worst section is section 2 or 3 or 4. It doesn't make any difference. Figure out which one you do best on, figure out which one you do worst on, and put the last one in your order. That's the one that you're going to do the poorest on. And now we're going to have more time to go through and get questions correct. It's not about completing the section. It's about answering as many questions correct as you can. And you'll find spending 10 or 15 extra seconds confirming an answer choice, double checking, right? Doing any of these things makes all the world of difference for your score. Okay, on science, right? National average is going to be right around 21, 22. Again, just like the reading, just like all these, I need to do roughly 50%. But if I want to get more, I don't have to do a ton more, right? I'm going from, say, a 20 to a 27. That's not an outrageous number of problems. It's not like you're doubling up. So if that's the case, maybe you figure out which one of the science experiments you're no good with. And for me, the one I'm the worst at is where there's 2 different experiments and I have to kind of remember both. And my brain doesn't work that way. I'm really good at reading charts and graphs. So I always go find the charts and graphs first, and then I save the ones that I'm not as good with towards the end in case I run out of time. And again, same sort of rules. Let's spend the time on questions that we can get, and the ones that we can't, we're going to save for the end, and we're just going to bubble in because we never want to leave anything blank. My third and final tip for this video is look for wrong answers. So chances are you've been doing it wrong your entire school life, because when you sat down to do a test and it was a multiple choice test, you started looking for right answers. Well, on a multiple choice test, you don't want to look for right answers. You want to look for wrong answers because there's more of them. Right? So on the ACT, on 3 of the 4 sections, there are 4 answer choices. And on the math, there's a 5th section. So this is math only. But the odds still work out. So here's the process, is that you're going to go through and you're going to read, right? We can talk about it in another one of my videos. You can talk about best way to do the reading section, the best way to do science, best way to do math, whatever the case may be. But this concept works great, ACT, SAT, and even tests that you take in school. So I've got multiple answer choices, and we're going to say hypothetically that answer choice A is the correct one. But now I don't really know that it's correct. It feels good. I still need to go through and look for other ones. So you're going to find that on this test, it's hard to prove everything correct. But it is so much easier to find one little thing that makes it wrong, and then that takes and invalidates the answer choice. So if I got multiple choice here, I say letter A feels good. Nope, don't pick it. Let's move on to B. I look at B and I go, you know what? I can definitely prove that one's incorrect. I saw that one. That's complete opposite of what it says. B is gone. Good. Now my odds have improved. Instead of 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, my odds have gotten a little bit better. We look at answer choice C and we go, answer choice C, I can't prove it right because that takes a long time, but I'm not 100% certain I can prove it wrong either. So I should probably cross it off, right? No. The rule is, when in doubt, don't cross it out. So if you're not certain and you can't get rid of an answer choice, we have to leave it into in that process as a possible answer choice here going forward. All right, we get to answer choice D and we go, again, no chance. I saw something in the passage or I worked out the math. I know that's not going to work. Now I have a 50-50, or if I'm including in the math, I got 1 out of 3. You're golden. Everything about this is good. Now, it's fantastic when you can go through and you can disprove everything. But you know what? This test is hard. ACT makes a couple $100 million every year off of kids like you. Your chances are you're not going to know everything. But we're looking to improve our chances by playing the odds. And that's really what we want to do. We want to look to not prove the correct answer. We want to definitely find something that's wrong. There's more wrong answers. They're easier to find. And then we're going to get it down to a couple, and then you got to go with your gut feeling. All right, so those are my top 3 ACT strategies. Do me a favor, please subscribe to my channel, hit like on this video, and if you have any questions about the 3 ACT strategies that I mentioned, please drop a comment and I will make certain that I answer your question. And if you would like me to make another video or other videos on ACT strategies, SAT strategies, please let me know and I'll make certain that I consider that and make a video in the future. So again, look for distractors, those things that lure you away, cross it out. Pace yourself, take a look at that score chart, understand where you are as a time test, take a look at where you are as an untimed test, and then that becomes your goal. And then number 3, look for wrong answers.